So, being a foreign affairs and war correspondent, you've been all around the world and seen many things, including atrocities. How important is UNICEF's work with the experiences that you've had? How do you believe you must really believe in its work?
I think we live in the most dangerous times since 1945, with challenges and dangers the world has not known before. Wars of climate change, jihadist campaigns, suicide bombers, child suicide bombers, great tides of refugees flowing across Africa and out of Africa, and a very high number of these are children. And UNICEF helps wherever it can. It's especially effective, I think, in Africa, where very few aid agencies are willing to work. In the Middle East, in Afghanistan, it only sends me to dangerous places because the other places it can send its celebrities. So I get a real sharp-end view of what it does. And I think it's absolutely terrific. It's the best job I ever had.
And with the recession in the West, do you think that there's a risk that the children around the world in the developing countries will be forgotten? Is that your aim, to make sure they're not?
Yeah, my aim is mostly to draw attention to what we call the silent emergencies. Something spectacular like the Haiti earthquake, all the press descend on it, and you know what's going on. And to some extent that was also the case with the Pakistani floods. But nobody in the West, and very few people know what's going on in Somalia. Now it's 20 years of civil war. In Yemen, which has had 6 wars in 6 years, 205,000 children driven out of one province, which is held by the rebels, and has every chance that war might reignite. So yes, that's my mission, is to draw attention to those in danger in the silent emergencies.
And just talking about your job as a war correspondent, obviously I'm interested in that as being a journalist myself. It was something that I was interested in doing, but then I soon realised that I would run away from any bullets that were near me. How do you make yourself stand there and put yourself in that position of risk?
I don't do it anymore. I think for the 30 years I did it, it was an acceptable way to earn a living. But the worst thing that could happen to you was to be caught in the crossfire. It happened to me only once. But after 9/11, journalists are taken out, targeted, ransomed, kidnapped, and it's just become too dangerous to work in and around war zones like Afghanistan unless you're embedded with an armed force, where you lose a lot of your freedom. So the kind of freedom we had to report a war among the people, from among the people, is now no longer available. And I think our viewers, listeners, readers are not as well informed about the wars of today as they were even 10 years ago.
How does having 30 years of reporting war and conflict affect your outlook on life? I mean, do you have sort of mental turmoil, or have you got a bit of a thick skin nowadays?
It affects different people in different ways. I never have nightmares about my war zone experiences. All my nightmares, they tend to be on losing my baggage or something trivial like that. So I don't brood about it. But when I think about it, it worries me that the world is such a dangerous place. Then I think of all the war zones I have known, where everyone said this problem is insoluble. I can tick a few off: Angola, Namibia, Nigeria even, Zimbabwe, and Northern Ireland especially, which is a kind of a conflict where it was resolved, often with the help of the United Nations. But there are others, and obviously Israel-Palestine, which seem to me to be totally insoluble problems.
You talked about the way that journalism is changing in foreign countries, but what do you think about the future of the local newspaper, and with newspapers closing? And
I'm very worried about the future of our local and regional press. People want to be informed about what's going on in their neighbourhood. I'll give you an example. I happened to be a Member of Parliament for 4 years. I had 2 thriving newspapers in my constituency. Both had offices, both were asking probing questions, holding their MP to account. All those offices have now closed, and these alleged newspapers are being cut and pasted, mostly out of press releases from central hubs. So I think we've lost a lot of that vigilance of the local press, and I think our communities are impoverished as a result. But I understand what's happened. It's the advance of the internet, it's the collapse in advertising because of the recession, and I don't see an answer to it.
Finally, can you tell me what your next trip will be with UNICEF?
I don't know. I just got it. At the moment I can't travel anywhere because my passport is absolutely full of stamps. I go to all these countries where the visa is a full page and I've run out of pages, so I have to get I got to get a new passport for my next foreign assignment, which is actually to give evidence in the trial of Radovan Karadzic for alleged war crimes in Bosnia. And I'm due up in The Hague on, I think, the 16th of November, so that's when I'm travelling next.
I know I said that was my last question, but have you been to the Isle of Man before?
I was in the Isle of Man 4 years ago. I think you've got a theatre in Port Erin, and I gave a little presentation, it's called An Audience With, about my curious lives. And as I remember, I had one of the best audiences in terms of questioning I've ever had. There wasn't a single duff question in there. People took a real interest in what was going on, so I just hope to be invited back one day.
Is there something that you would say to the Manx public to ask for support for UNICEF?
Yes. I think UNICEF deserves support because it does good in a dangerous world. It helps children who without it would not otherwise be helped. And the reason to help UNICEF is not just because we live in a dangerous world and we protect ourselves by giving, but we give because it is right to people who are much less fortunate than we are. I mean, when I talk to the kids, let me give you one example. They ask me, what's the most important subject we should study? And I say, there are 20 countries in the world, from Nicaragua to Cambodia, Bosnia to Namibia, where the most important subject for the young to learn from the time they're old enough to walk is landmine awareness. Landmines, fortunately, are not a problem in the Isle of Man, but in an awful lot of countries where they are, and the kids understand it.